Hi everyone, I am so excited for our video today because I have with me the Sonia G Japanese Gardens Maki-e set. Look at that! It's so pretty, seeing this on my hands. It's amazingly beautiful, and even the brush heads too, they look amazing. Now before we continue, I would like to give a huge thank you to Sonia G and to Beautylish for sending these my way. I truly appreciate it. I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you. Now there was actually a small hiccup with the delivery of this. If you follow my Instagram, I stated there at this point of the video when I am doing this 5 days ago, it was actually reported on the courier service that this was already delivered, and I was a little bit surprised at that because I have not received any. And I really jumped from my seat as soon as I read that because I wanted to know where the package was, and because this is PR, it's actually very, very precious, especially that limited edition. And I also had to inform Sonia G, and I also had to inform Beautylish of the recent happenings, just so that they're in the loop. But I also did contact the courier service because I really wanted them to trace where my package was, and it also came to a point that I actually did a list of all of the villages near me that share the same street name as I am, because here where I live, it's all named after Filipino presidents. So I had to write them down, and then I was so ready to go to that house which has the same number as my house and street address, and just knock on the door and say hey, do you think there was a wrong delivery made to your address? I think that's mine. So anywho, to cut the long story short, it was just erroneously marked on the courier service that this was delivered, but at the time it was still being processed for delivery. So I'm just so glad I got this because it completes the entire Sonia G Maki-e series that she's released this year. Okay, so for our vlog today, we'll be getting to know this Maki-e set from Sonia G. We'll be doing some comparisons, and of course we will be doing a try on and a demo to see how these brushes introduce themselves to me. So the Sonia G Japanese Gardens Maki-e set came in its own special Polonia box. Take a look at that. It's actually so pretty, and I do have to say that the design here on the front now is more detailed in comparison to the Summer Koi and of course to the Sunset Cranes, because the Sunset Cranes there were no designs on the Polonia box, but I think it evolved as the design concept of these Maki-e brushes of Sonia actually develop, and I kind of like it. It's still so pretty, by the way. And when you open it, the brushes were wrapped in this washi paper which resembles that of a bamboo leaf. It's so cute, and it has a ribbon here. I forgot the term for this type of ribbon here, but this is a very special kind of a design on a ribbon. It's so cute, very traditional also to a certain degree. So I love the packaging that we have now for the Japanese Gardens set. It's so special, and of course you can actually use these to hold your brushes, but they're actually very light and sometimes it can topple over, so just be very careful, okay, when you use this as a brush stand of sorts. Now the Japanese Gardens Maki-e set comes with 3 very beautiful brushes. Take a look at that. And what makes this special is not only the Maki-e design that we see here, but also the bristles that is used in the brush heads, because all of them have a mix of Chikuhodo and white Canadian squirrel. Can you see how beautiful it gleams under the light? It's so beautiful, the black lacquer of the handle, it just looks stunning. And then of course we have the Maki-e design here close to the base of the brush. And then you have this very nice golden warm color that represents light in a Japanese garden in the evening. Very beautiful Maki-e design. You have the stepping stones here, you have the bamboo leaf, and then you have the red lamp that you see in a Japanese garden. Then you have petals flying in the wind, and of course we can see that there is a crane here flying over the moon. So if you're looking at a brush and then there is a circular design there, and if it's color gold, that means that's the sun, and then if it's silver, that is the moon. Okay, And then if we turn one of the brush to the back, you can see that the Sonia G name is stamped here, and you still have that same very nice warm bronzy golden color peeking through the black lacquer. And then this has a nice, very beautiful black ferrule here. And of course, what makes this brush extra special is actually the bristles used in creating the brush head. And again, as I've said earlier, these are all made of white Canadian squirrel mixed with Chikuhodo tears. They actually feel very soft, and I can feel some resilience to it, so it has a very nice balance of luxury and functionality. So having this right now completes me having the entire Maki-e series that Sonia G has been releasing recently. And if we line them up together, it actually looks very stunning together. I can't believe it. Just the concept behind this, and also the way that the story of each of the Maki-e sets kind of intersect with each other, but they're also very distinctive. I really love that. And it also it evokes a certain kind of string in our hearts, because if there's one thing that I have learned in advertising, if you add a story into a certain product, it becomes more meaningful. And this is what I love about having all of these brushes together in my hands today. Very stunning, very beautiful. And if you've been following Sonia G's blog post about her Maki-e set, I was actually quite surprised that they initially planned to create all of these brushes all at once and release them all at once. And it's up to you to pick which set you want to add to your collection. Now, I'm actually kind of glad that that did not happen, because it just gives enough breathing space for us Fude lovers to save our money, because even if the concept of this is that you can actually purchase which brush that you'd like to add into your already existing kit. Because the Maki-e designs here are so beautiful, it makes it a collector's item, and a lot of Fude lovers actually really clamored to have this. But I do have to say that I have also read that there were others who didn't jump into the pool, which is understandable, because again, even if these are limited edition brushes, you should always purchase the things that you need and the things that will work in between all of your existing brushes. And seeing all of these Maki-e brushes together now, I do have to say that even if you don't have any of the previous brushes from Sonia G, having all of these together will actually give you a nice cohesive brushes to use to create amazing eyeshadow looks. And I'm also liking that we have a variety of bristles here, because especially if you're someone who's trying out Fude for the first time, it will give you an idea of what type of bristles or brush heads will actually work for your sentiments or your makeup routine and with the makeup products that you have in your collection. And I love that. It's a great introduction to the brand, and if you're an avid Fude collector, it's actually an amazing collection to add into your brush kit. Okay, so if the light changes, I do apologize. It's cloudy today, so the light is peeking out from the clouds. Okay, all right, so those are the other Maki-e brushes from Sonia G, namely the Summer Koi Maki-e set and the Sunset Grains Maki-e set. So before we continue, now that we have all of these released in the market, can you let me know down in the comments box which is your favorite Maki-e set from Sonia G? And let's discuss it, okay? Now, the Sonia G Japanese Gardens Maki-e set comes with 3 brushes. So you have one small pencil brush, which is actually good for detail application into the eye. And then you have one small builder brush. Look at that. Amazing. I like the size of this because it will really fit perfectly into eyelids like mine with very small spaces, or even for detailing work. Fantastic. And you have a nice crease brush here, which is actually very soft and very airy, but there is a certain resilience in the belly here, which gives it the ability for sure to buff out and to blend out colors in the socket line or in the crease. Look at that. Okay, so if we're just playing around with the bristles here, the crease brush snaps into position quite nicely, keeps its shape very well as well. That also goes the same for the small pencil brush here. Look at the snapback, amazing. And the builder brush here, also nice snap back into position. Look at that, very snappy. Very strong at the belly. Perfect builder brush, I'm so sure of this. Now, in terms of comparison, I do have to say that this crease brush from the Japanese Gardens Maki-e set of Sonia G has a very similar size and shape to the Summer Koi crease brush. So I'm gonna put them right beside each other. But there's a slight difference in the brush head design, where in the Summer Koi here, it blooms much more wider at the top, while the crease brush from the Japanese Garden set here is more together at the tip of the bristles. And I'm just going to get the mini booster. I'm going to put it right beside these two so that you guys can see on how similar they are, but they're also quite different. Because the mini booster here, the bristles at the tips actually are close in on each other more. It's also more rounded, while the Japanese Garden crease brush here flares out a little bit, blooms a little bit at the tips, but it doesn't bloom as wide as the Summer Koi crease brush here. Now, let me also get the crease M brush here. Let me put it here to the side, right beside the Japanese Garden crease brush here. So as you guys can see, they're also quite similar, but the crease M here is just a little bit longer than the Japanese Garden crease brush. And this is my J146 from Hakuhodo, which I'm going to put right beside that now. Again, they're quite similar, but the J146 here is just a tad longer in bristle length than the crease brush from the Japanese Garden crease brush from Sonia G. Now, I know that the bristles of these brushes do not contain any white Canadian squirrel, and the most obvious comparison that I could make is actually to the Yoshiki by Koyudo Bobo eyeshadow brushes, which share the same bristle type, and then I'm just gonna put them right beside each other. So the Yoshiki by Koyudo Bobo eyeshadow brush here, the crease brush, this one has a more candle-like tip design, while the Japanese Garden Maki-e brush here from Sonia G has a much more rounder tip. So that's the main difference, but both of them are equally soft and equally luxurious feeling. And now that I have these two brushes together, I think they're gonna be very complementary to each other, because for sure I can use them together to help me to become more detailed with my eyeshadow application. Like if I need to emphasize the crease of my eyes, I can use the Bobo, and then if I want to buff out the edges or add blending, I can use the Japanese Garden Maki-e set from Sonia G. And I'm very glad that I have these two right now, because again, we have different brush head designs that can help you to become very specific with your eyeshadow application. And also one thing, by the way, if you are someone who has very sensitive eyes, but you just like something that can help you buff out and to blend out, these Japanese Garden Maki-e set from Sonia G would have been amazing for sure. For sure. And now for the builder brush from the Japanese Gardens Maki-e set, is actually very similar in brush head design to the Summer Koi builder brush here. But I do have to say that the Japanese Gardens builder brush here has just a smaller brush head, while the Summer Koi brush head here is a little bit wider in terms of a width of the bristles, if you look at that. And also the Summer Koi brush head here is much more rounder in the tip, while the Japanese Garden Maki-e here is a little bit more rectangular, almost squarish in the tip. And if you take a look at the side, you can see that their airiness is very different, and also the fullness of their belly. Okay, and with other Sonia G's brushes, so this is the Builder S brush. So this one, so both of these brushes look very similar to each other. If we put the brushes to the side here, we can just see a slight difference in the way the brush heads taper to the point here at the tips. And of course, because these are both made of very different bristles, the Builder S here is actually stronger in comparison to that of the Builder brush here from the Japanese Maki-e set of Sonia G. Now, the Summer Koi Maki set from Sonia G also has a small builder brush. And if you put that right beside the Japanese Garden builder brush, you guys can see on how small the brush head is of the builder brush from the Summer Koi brush set. But this one was actually designed as an pencil brush, but it was flattened a little bit. So again, this is good for detailing work. And I can also say that for this builder brush, especially if you want to work in the sensitive areas of your eyes, like if you want to add eyeshadow here in the inner corners, this is going to be fantastic. Or even in the mobile lid, I'm sure this is going to be very useful. And again, I love that we have different brush head sizes here, because it can really help us to be more detailed with our eyeshadow application. And of course, it can also help us work with different types of formulations, especially that we have different types of hairs used in these brushes. Now, the Yoshiki by Koyudo, Bobo, Psycho-Ho, and White Squirrel eyeshadow brush set also comes with a builder brush, but it's actually very wide in comparison of that of Sonia. So we actually don't have any smaller sizes from Bobo's collection. So again, having these two together can be very useful to me, because they again share the same bristle type and mix. But because of the difference in the brush head design, it again can help me to become very detailed with my eyeshadow application look. And for sure, they can work cohesively together. I am so excited to try these together. Super. Alright, and the final brush is the small pencil brush, which I absolutely love. So I do hope that in the future, Sonia might develop something similar to a brush head like this that will remain in her permanent collection. May it be part of her Kakishibo Eye series, because I think that would be interesting to have brush heads like that, because we really need very strong brush heads and bristles to really apply and to blend out creamier eyeliner products or creamier eyeshadow products, and to be more detailed. Because for this brush, we can only use this for powder eyeshadow products, that's for sure. Okay, so as I've shown you earlier, there's a nice snap back into the position of this brush head, and you can actually see with the tips here that there's actually great movement, which is actually fantastic, because it can really help us to apply eyeliner on the eyes in a very directional manner and in a very intent manner. Now, I can say that the small pencil brush from the Sunset Crane set also has great mobility and movement, but it's actually softer in comparison to the Japanese Garden small eyeliner brush here. Now, the main difference with these two are the tips of the bristles, wherein if I press the tip of the Sunset Crane set here, you guys can see on how soft the tip is here. So for sure, this will not give us enough buffing ability, but this is like a perfect lay down brush actually. But for the Japanese Garden Maki-e set here, if I just press my finger on the tip of the bristle here, you guys can actually see that there is some strength at the core in the middle of the brush here, that for sure will act amazingly well in being very steady in applying and blending out color in your lash line. Okay, so I'm actually so glad that I have this now, because it will work together with the eyeliner brush from the Sunset Cranes, because the Sunset Cranes here, because this is made of blue squirrel, when I pick up eyeshadow and apply it on my lash line, the concentration of the color always ends up in the area where I first landed the brush. And then of course I can always blend it out. It has enough blending ability, but inside I have a much more focused intensity of color in maybe in the outer area, and I don't get that much either here in the middle of the lash line or even in the inner corner. But I think with this brush, because of its strength in the core, as soon as I apply the color here on my lash line, I will be able to buff it out. And I think the delivery of this will be in a much more not slower, but it's gonna be more, there's more gradation to it, and there's more blending ability, which I actually prefer. Because this one, if I want to be very strong with an application, I just land it there and it's there. But if I want to blend out an eyeshadow color in the lash line, I need something stronger, and I think I have it with this brush. And of course, if I put it beside my other smaller pencil brushes here, again, like, you know, I have different ways of actually applying eyeliner on the eyes, and it just gives me like, you know, the ability to become more creative and become very selective with which brush I would use for a specific purpose. Like example, for these two alone, like, you know, if I want to apply strong highlight colors in the inner corner of the eye, I would use this because this is soft enough to do that. But if I want to be more specific with my eyeliner application using powder products, I can actually use this. You know, especially if you're that person who likes like, you know, Korean type of a makeup application wherein you apply highlighting eyeshadows here in your lower lash line, I'm sure you can actually use the Japanese Garden Maki-e set pencil brush, because this has, like, you know, enough strength and ability to pick up those types of formulas. Okay, yeah, so I believe that's the comparisons that I have for you guys today. So if you have any more questions, like, or if I've missed something, please let me know down in the comments box, and then of course we will talk about it. Okay, so at this point, what we'll do is we'll try out these Japanese Gardens Maki-e set from Sonia G, and let's see how well they will work for us today. Okay, so let me just scoot a little bit closer to the camera. I hope the lighting is still good for us. And I will be using a lot of matte eyeshadows today, because that's what I actually like to use these types of brush heads for. Okay, so I have here some eyeshadows from Eldridge, and I also have some eyeshadows here from Viseart. So we will be crisscrossing between brands. Okay, all right, so what I want to do first is I want to apply like a nice like, you know, transition shade here in my socket line area, and maybe I'd use this nice warm shade here. Love it. So just like, you know, the way it lands on the pan here, I don't get any product kick up, which is fantastic. So I know that, like, you know, I don't have a ton of pigment on the bristle here on the tip. Okay, so I'm gonna brush that along my socket line now. Very nice application of color, very light. But of course, because it's a very light shade, you won't see it. Okay, so that's the first transition shade down. Okay, let's buff that up and spread it out. Okay, very well. So I love that, like, you know, it doesn't pick up a ton of color like, you know, on first go, and especially if you're, like, you know, someone who's very apprehensive with applying too much makeup, and if you prefer a much more slower, gradual approach, this brush set would have been fantastic. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper, and I'm gonna be picking up this shade now, and I'm going to add that here in the outer portion of my socket line and bring it forward. Fantastic, look at that, very nice blend of color. And I can actually see right now that where the brush head actually lands first, you get the, like, you know, intensity of color there. But as soon as I start blending it, it actually kind of spreads out the color quite nicely, and you're actually also able to buff it out. So if you're, like, you know, someone who's a beginner, this set should have been great for you. Okay, so now let's try this shade from Lisa, and with the same blending brush, I'm just tapping it here, and let me just drag it into my socket line. So it's a warmer shade now, which works fantastically for the undertone of my skin. And we have this very nice even amount of coloration in the socket line. Now, mind you, by the way, like, you know, the eyeshadows that I'm using like now doesn't have a lot of binders in them. So if you have those types of formulas, this should have been great, because it will not, like, produce a lot of product kick up and disturbance in the pan, and you also don't pick up a lot of that kick up, and you don't end up with having, like, you know, a lot of fall down on your upper cheeks. Yeah, then let's buff that out. Blend it upwards. I love it. Super nice. Now let me get the builder brush. Then let me just drag it out. Just really help to create a lift for my eyes. Okay, next I'm gonna get this pinky shade right now. I'm using the builder brush. And this is how much product it picks up. It picks up a good amount of pigment, I do have to say. And I'm just going to tap it here into my mobile lid. And I'm not using any eye base with us today, guys. So what you see right now is how the brush actually lays down the pigment on my eyelids in the way that it doesn't really create any type of fluffing or fall down so far. Okay, that's absolutely lovely. I love that. Okay, now that that color is down, I'm going to get this light shade again that I used earlier. Just pick up a little bit. And then I'm gonna add that color here into the outer portions of this part of my eyeshadow, so that I just have some color there, and that just really helps me create a lift for my eye and also a little bit of definition. Look how soft that bristle is. Look how soft. But again, I'm so surprised on how it's actually able to apply color very evenly. Amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to the groundwork defining neutrals palette of the Nessa Myrix, and I'm using the color Bark here. I'm using the builder brush. Ooh, look at the amount of pigment it picks up. So let me just remove a little bit, because I don't want to be very excessive with my application in the outer areas of my eye. And then I'm just applying the color here in the outer V portions just to intensify that a bit. Love that. Remove any excess. And then just drag that into my socket line area. Nice even pigmentation, nice intensity as well. Love that. And I kind of like the fact, depending on how you load the color on your bristle. So for example, if I load the color just in this portion of the brush head and I don't have anything here at the back, and if I just lay it here onto my socket line, that will actually enable me to apply the intensity quite nicely without even affecting the color that I applied in my mobile eyelid. And this just really helps me to become more detailed with my eyeshadow application. And this is actually a nice blending brush of sorts as well, because it's a flat and rounded brush head design. So this can also help you to drag out the color, and it can also help you to become quite directional with your approach as well. But then again, if you guys can see, I am very light-handed with my application of the colors, and I'm also using very light strokes. Now, before we move on to eyeliner, I just want to apply a nice highlight in the this portion of my eye, and I'm gonna be using this shade here. So this color actually reminds me of how sugar looks like when it's crystallized. And let me just add that here into my inner corner and also here. So this brush can really help you to become very specific with your eyeshadow application. Okay, so I'm actually very interested in using this very nice purple shade here. So I'm just landing the tip of the bristle here, and I'm just going to tap it along my upper lash line. Look at that. Look how easy it was to apply intensity. And I actually like the fact that I'm actually able to control on how thick or thin I want to apply the color. Again, the bristles are very soft. It actually doesn't hurt. It's actually very ticklish. So I'm just building intensity now, and I kind of love, like, the overall, like, balance of thickness that the tip of the bristle here can really help me to achieve, like, a look like that. I was not sure that this brush head could do this, but so far it did. I love it. Okay, so let me just add a tiny flick here in the outer corner. And then let me blend that. Very easy, very nice. Again, no fallout whatsoever. None at all. All right. So I'm actually loving on how soft it all looks. And then, like, the warm tones of the eyeshadows are just complementing the purple eyeliner eyeshadow that I applied. Okay, but I actually want to intensify this a little bit, and I'm going to be using this black shade here from the Danessa Marix Groundwork Defining Palette. And I'm just, like, applying the black here on the tip of this bristle. And I'm just going to tap that into my lash line. I want to really work it in. And I'm actually so glad to see that I can be very detailed with my application. Fantastic. So it's like, really complementing each other, and it's just making my eyes come out, like really pop the color of my eyes. And let me get the small eyeliner brush from the Sunset Cranes Maki-e set. Let me get a little bit of this, and let me just apply a little bit of that here in the lower lash line, here in the outer corners. And then I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the purple shade here, just like, one tap, and then I'm gonna apply that on top. So again, we have a nice cohesive color. Fantastic. And what I want to do now is I want to add some mascara, because it just kind of like completes the look. And then as a finishing touch, I'm gonna get a little bit of the black again, just at the tips, and then I'm just going to emphasize the outer flick here, concentrating the color as close to my lash line as possible, because I don't want to lose the nice purple tone that I see here in the outer flick. And maybe just as a, like, I'm just being playful, let me get one of these, like, shimmery shadows from Lisa, and let me press the bristle here while I pick up some, like, shimmery pigment. I'm not too sure, but we can always try. And I'm gonna add that here. Ah, yes, I can see that it was actually able to pick up the shimmery pigment successfully, and it is also able to deliver it. And what I like about this is that there was no flicking of the shimmery products, and I was actually able to apply it in a very specific manner. That's what I love about small brush heads like this, because it can really help you to be very specific with application of, like, color that you want on your eyes. Okay, so I believe we have come to the end of my vlog for today, and I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you how I got to know the Sonia G Japanese Gardens Maki-e set. I'm just so sad that they're no longer in production. Like, there was a final restock that happened in December 10th. Yes, but that was December 11th here in the Philippines. And it actually also coincided with the release of her Japanese Gardens brush holder. Now, I also wanted to get that, but unfortunately, there is a purchase cap for people in the Philippines. But in the future, I would really love to have a brush holder from Sonia, like, that wide and also that artistic. And I believe, basing on what she said on her post, on her website, Sweet Makeup Temptations, that I think next year we might be getting a new brush holder, and I'm hoping to be able to get that. So I just have to plan in advance, because I think I would need to ask which of my friends are coming to the Philippines around like either late in December or maybe early January, because all of my friends who are in the States now are not planning to come home at this time of the year, and those who had plans are already here, so I kind of missed out on that. And I didn't want to buy anything and keep it in stock in somebody's place, because like, you know, these things shouldn't be placed like, you know, hidden somewhere, but they should always be used, because like, you know, you really need to appreciate these kinds of like, you know, artwork. And I love that, like, you know, the recent one, like, it's so beautiful. The poetry behind, like, you know, the design of that brush holder was actually fantastic. It's so good. I love it. It's a very nice nod not only to Sonia's love for, like, you know, brushes, but also for like Japanese culture. And mind you, the price of that brush holder is actually on point, because if you go to Kyoto or like, you know, Hiroshima, and you see a lot of this, like, you know, woodwork, the prices are like, you know, so it's actually like, you know, within the proper range of prices, because I think I saw somebody complaining that I think it was just too expensive. But mind you, for a product like that with a lot of inlay of different types of wood, and also like, you know, different types of artistic procedure, the price is actually just right. Okay, all right, so that's it from me today. I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you how I got to know Sonia G's Japanese Gardens Maki set. So if you have any more questions about, like, you know, my thoughts on this or how I use it, please let me know down in the comments box, and let's have a conversation about it. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye.